until I would say maybe about 4 years ago, I never wore any colour. Like, it was a big deal if I wore colour. I am Macfarlane. I am on Instagram. I am a stylist and fashion blogger. I work for Topshop as a personal shopper in Belfast. And for the last couple of years, I have been a fashion blogger on Instagram, promoting a lot of like mid-size fashion, and like I'm really into like body confidence and kind of making sure that, you know, fashion is for all bodies, and kind of, you know, making sure that we all, you know, there's a bit of inspiration out there for everyone, not just people who maybe feel like they fall into a certain category. And yeah, no, I really love Instagram because you get to meet lovely people like Lindsey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's fab. So, how long have you been working at Topshop for?
So I've actually been working there for 2 years. Before then, I was part of the management team at a barbecue restaurant. It's like career change. I came on just as floor staff, and then I joined the VM team. And then now for the last year, basically, I've been working as the personal shopper there, and it's fab. It's really great. I always think, if I get people messaging me, maybe asking kind of like for a bit of career advice, which is so funny because I kind of always say Topshop's great in that I think there's a lot of opportunities that I think a lot of other stores don't directly have that are that accessible. Like, a lot of their fashion jobs are like they go internally, and I think they're a lot harder to get if you're coming as an outsider. So that was kind of why I actually joined Topshop, because I always knew I wanted to be a personal shopper, and through that I got a load of different positions while in the short 2 years I've worked there, and it's been great.
Yeah, I always really wanted to be a personal shopper for Topshop, because I worked at Topshop as well. And I loved it when I was there. I started at like back of house, and then I went onto the floor, and then I did a little bit of VM, but I finished uni, and then I went on to do fashion PR instead, so I didn't stay in the store. But yeah, I always really wanted to be a personal shopper because I loved working for Topshop. I thought it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
And we were saying before, just before we started recording, about like working in retail and like having to like look at yourself all day, because obviously there's a kind of pressure to present yourself when you're working for Topshop. You're like a walking, talking advertisement. But yeah, how do you deal with that? Like having to like look at yourself all day and be really presentable in work constantly?
I think, now this is just for me personally, because I would never want to say this and be like, oh, this is like going to solve any body confidence issues you have. But for me, I found that it was kind of the best of both worlds, in that I find it like difficult. Like, suddenly you're now looking at yourself way more in your day-to-day than you normally would. And I find that difficult, where you're like, you know, especially maybe leaving the house, I felt good in something, and then I get into work and the mirrors would just make me feel really sad. But yeah. I think at the same time, I think it kind of made me a bit more, do you know what I mean? Like, it just made me feel a bit more like, well, this is what I look like. It kind of gave me a bit more acceptance, where it was like, I don't know, it just was like, that's just what you look like. And I think, again, I would never say that like that's a good thing, or like that is like a common thing to help body confidence issues, but I find it gave me that wee bit more acceptance than I think I had before, because it's almost like aversion therapy, where if you have any hang-ups about looking at yourself, you're now suddenly surrounded by, and especially I think as my career progressed, where I went into personal shopping, and like a big part of my job, and kind of especially alongside Instagram, is taking photos in the product, is sharing, you know, like new product, and like really showcasing that. So then that's like almost upping it like tenfold, because then you're having to like take photos of yourself, edit photos of yourself, put in photos of yourself, so you're really just looking at that. But I think it is a really interesting thing that I don't think I thought about before I went into retail, that suddenly you're surrounded by loads of mirrors. And I think as much as it gave acceptance, it was definitely a big thing to adjust to.
Yeah, definitely, because I found that with taking photos of myself, that's kind of taught me to accept that this is the way I look. And I used to be like scared of being in front of the camera, and it did help me like doing more in front of it. But I really struggled, I think, with the mirrors when I was working in Topshop, and like always I remember there was like certain ones that I'd always be looking in and always like checking and stuff like that. And like, yeah, if you were having an off day, when you're like,
God.
oh, I just want to turn up to work in this.
And I think especially when you're under fluorescent lights, it's not
Oh
even
my gosh.
a well-lit place. It's like fluorescent lights, and you're just, it's intense. It is definitely intense. And I think as well, like, I know that because you're a photographer and you do videography as well, I think, like, because that was kind of not where I started. I would have been very into photography. Like, I think especially we were the generation where like Tumblr and Bebo and all those things existed, and I would have been very into like photographing things. So then the adjustment of then coming in front was a big thing, where it's like suddenly you're like, oh, now I'm the one that I have to like photograph, get the angles right, look at all these photos, because like, you know yourself, in a photo, if you're doing shoots, like you're talking about 100 photos maybe for the one outfit, and I get so sick of looking at myself. Genuinely, not even in a self-conscious way, just like, oh my god, no.
I really miss your when you do the stories and stuff from it working in Topshop, because are you furloughed now?
Yeah, no, they were really fun. I think they're like a really good way to kind of showcase the stuff, and I think as well, it kind of gave me my fashion fix without having to buy everything as well. Whereas, like, you know, obviously we're at home, we're kind of buying some bits, but we're also mostly just doing with the stuff that we have. But yeah, they were always fun. I enjoyed them, especially like, cause you know yourself, if you got like a drop on like a Friday or something of like all new stock, and you're like, sweet, gonna stick all of this on now. But yeah, it was really fun.
I was looking back through your Instagram, and when you first started, it was quite like dark and moodier than it is now. What made you do you think that your style's changed a lot over the past couple of years?
Definitely, 100%. So I think people always find it's really interesting to know, because obviously, like, you know, there's a lot of colour and pattern. Until I would say maybe about 4 years ago, I never wore any colour. Like, it was a big deal if I wore colour. I wore like black band tees, skinny jeans, like leather jacket, like constantly. And I think when you would have went back to that time, you're seeing a bit of a progression where I think there was like the odd pop of colour, and then suddenly I think I just fell in love with like really bright colours. I also think, and like I've had this conversation with a few people, I don't remember dresses and like bright patterns and stuff really being a thing until a couple of years ago. I mean, like, I think like I would have been very into vintage fashion, and I think I would have worn floral prints because I got like a vintage style dress or like a 60s style. I don't think as much, like I can even remember Topshop 2 years ago when I started working there wasn't as much like, you know, where like nearly every other dress are these florals, like these are all Topshop dresses, and I think you would have got one or two of them, but you didn't get like, you know, that wasn't like part of the main collection. So I don't know whether it evolved through kind of those options being there, but I definitely think in the last couple of years, not only have I kind of learned to dress for my shape, but I've also learned to dress for what is actually my style. And I think I'm kind of following as much trend-led stuff and kind of as much being as influenced by things I love and other people, but that aren't quite right for me. Whereas I think back a couple of years ago, I would have been very into that, where I would have kind of forced certain things on me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's super interesting. I'm trying to think back to like whether I can remember loads of floral dresses on or not, like when I was like younger and shopping. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think as well you style colour really well. Like I've noticed there's a lot of pictures where you've kind of got colour clashes, or I just think that it works really well for you. Is that something you find easy now?
Yeah, I think it's something I find easy, but I think on the same wavelength, it's something that I've had to kind of hone in on a wee bit, because it was getting to a stage where, because something was bright, patterned and floral, I was just buying it. And I don't agree with that anymore as much, where I'm like, right, you don't need 7 of the same thing because they're that style. And I think as well, like, I find, I'm not afraid of colour. I think I'm always surprised by how many of my clients are afraid of colour, that are like, oh, no, I couldn't possibly, where I'm like, you know, it's a colour. Stick it up. You're grand. You'll look good. I think it's kind of learning those colours that go well with you. Like, I wouldn't be a big blue person. Like, I have a couple of pieces that are blue, but blue doesn't necessarily agree with me that well, like especially like navy. Like, I love like girls who do that kind of real French vibe and wear a lot of navy. It literally looks like nothing on me, it looked really sad.
Mm.
I think it's kind of learning those different things that do really like highlight your complexion and kind of just really are fun. But I'm now trying to work on colourful pieces, but with like a longevity, because I don't want to just be buying trend-led pieces all the time. And I think I went through a real stage of buying like neons and stuff, and then 6 months later I'm like, I don't like this anymore. I think it's finding a good balance of fun, bright, but also long lasting instead of just, again, trend-led fashion.
Yeah. Did you find that styling other people has helped you style yourself, or had confidence to wear things because you've seen it on someone else?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that, you wouldn't necessarily maybe try yourself, and then you see it on someone and you're like, oh, that's really nice. And I think you learn a lot about like practicing what you preach as well. So like there'll be things that I'm like, no, you should go for it, blah, blah, blah. Or like, here, it doesn't matter if, like I get like a big question I get is like, oh, what's trendy? And I'm like, I literally don't care. Like I truly, like I'm not really into like, obviously I buy a lot of high street, I buy a lot of like current stuff, but I would never be like, oh, I'm going to buy that because that's on trend. And I think it's learning, from dressing other people, I learned a lot about like personal style and, trying things that like, maybe sometimes are outside of that personal style, but also kind of finding that niche that is your own style. So yeah, I think it is a really eye-opening thing, and I think styling other people is what then makes you a better stylist as well. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think I didn't really maybe understand just how beneficial kind of once you got really like a really good client base and like learning other people's style, how much that could teach you about yourself, which I love. It's really interesting.
Is sort of fashion and clothes and stuff in your family, is that something that's kind of been passed down to you, or do you feel like you're a bit of an anomaly? Is that the right word? How do you even say that?
No, I'm not going to attempt to say that. Yeah, like my mum would have always been very like my mum and my auntie, who like I would be very like my boyfriend laughs if we're the three of us together. He's like, three of the same person. But they would have always been like, I grew up like, because I was from Ireland, so we would have went down to Dublin with where my auntie lives, and we would have went to like all the lovely shops there and like Zara. So I think I've always had like an awareness of dressing. So with my mum, it's not necessarily that she would be big into like fashion per se, but she's very well dressed, and like I think I always grew up with like a notion of kind of like you should be ready for anything. I think, and that's my favorite thing to say to people. Like that would be if I have clients coming in. I'm not giving you a wardrobe that makes you look high fashion or something. It's just a wardrobe that at any point you can pull things out and you're good to go for anything. So they're practical, they're fun, they're nice, but you're ready for anything. And I think that influence of kind of like having an awareness, and again, it wasn't an awareness of, oh, you need to be like looking your best, you need to be like, wearing the new clothes, you need to have like vanity. It wasn't that. It was just kind of about, how you put yourself out there and kind of the perception that other people take from that. And I think that mixed with then, a lot of shopping growing up, I think kind of evolved into why I love fashion so much, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So like no one in my family does anything in fashion, but I would say it was quite a big part of my life where like my mum doesn't even really like shopping, to be honest, but it just was a very big thing. It was kind of how you look and kind of how you put yourself out there. And I think that's actually probably where my styling love came from. And I just have always been into kind of what I'm wearing. I think I've always been aware of what I'm wearing, and like, back in the day of like making like fingerless gloves and stuff when I was really into like Avril Lavigne and stuff. And like I can remember cutting up dresses because my mum was like direly trying to force me into dresses, and I was like, no, because I wanted to be a punk.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's such a good conversation starter as well, isn't it? Like if you go out and then someone like comments on your dress and stuff, and I always find that can gets quite addictive in a way, because it's really nice when someone says that about you. But yeah, it's good like just chatting to someone on the bus because they've picked out that they like your skirt or something like that.
It is. It's a really nice thing, and I think it's a very simple thing of how you could make someone's day. So like I always try to kind of like, if you spot something, you like tell the person, because I think it's such a lovely way. And I think especially if you're in like a social setting, it's like a nice icebreaker, as you said, where you can kind of then start chatting about things. And like, I think it's a great kind of, without, you know, it being all about what people are wearing and stuff and what girls are wearing, but I think it's just a nice way to kind of connect with someone, I think. And I think as well, because nowadays I think a lot of people can all spot where things are from and stuff, and be like, oh, I really like that, blah, 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 I had that. And I think it's a really cool way to kind of, it's kind of like how all of us became like friendly on Instagram essentially as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because I found that when I was in school, I went to an all-girls school, and we never complimented each other on like what we were wearing, or like we never really complimented each other. So it's definitely something that I've had to like learn to be able to do and learn to be able to take. And even if I think that someone looks amazing and I tell them, I feel like I'm lying. It's weird. I just get like this fear of dread in me, because I feel so unnatural doing it, but I want to appreciate people's clothes, and like, you know, they've dressed up for the day and like made all that effort, and like it's just nice to be able to be like, yeah, you look amazing, and like just share some like joy kind of thing.
Yeah, like acknowledge that in a person, definitely. I think that's really interesting what you're saying, because I went to an all-girls school too, but like there was nothing to be complimented. Like, did you watch Dairy Girls?
No, I've seen a couple bits of it, but I've not watched the whole thing.
That was essentially what my like growing up was like. That was what our school was like, with not the like uniforms, everything. So there was nothing to be complimented. But I always think it's really interesting when you meet other people that went to all-girls schools, because I think you can always kind of, you have a lot of similar stories and stuff, and kind of your adolescents were very similar, I think, as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting growing up and not needing to like worry about, like, we didn't worry about wearing makeup in school or like anything like that. We were all just, we kind of behaved like boys, really. We'd be running around and like putting banana in each other's hair, like it was just unruly.
I know, because I can remember like a friend of mine that did go to like same-sex or mixed-sex schools, and like they were wearing like short skirts and like putting tan on, like shaving their legs. I can just remember being like I've always been very into like what I wear, but I was just like, oh, would you be bothered? Like, I just was like, no.
Yeah.
I want to go to school and just be like, oh, I look really gross, it's fine. There's no judgment here.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to your first item then, the item that you love.
So I went for both the dress I have on today. Sorry, I know you said one, but I chose two.
No, that's fine.
These are my Rixo dresses, and the reason I chose Rixo is I was having a conversation with someone, I think it was Siobhan the other day, about like designer, kind of slightly more independent brands that you feel were literally designed for you. And I remember seeing this, so I bought this just before I started working in Topshop. So I bought this about 2 years ago, and it was kind of before Rixo were really a thing, in the like Net-a-Porter sale.
Oh, it's so nice.
It literally is like probably my favorite piece in my wardrobe.
In the back as well, that's great.
I had a couple of weddings and stuff that year, and I was like, right, instead of buying 3 or 4 dresses, I'm just gonna buy one and wear it to all of it. So I got really good mileage out of it. But I love this because this feels like me. When I look at this dress, it literally feels like me. This is my kind of, it's the same cut of a dress that I love. I love like the floaty sleeves. It's high-waisted, mixed pattern, and like just the colours, everything. So I chose this just because I love Rixo for that reason. I think they kind of did what I wanted to exist, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
I love mixed print, and I think it's something that is hard to get right. I think without it being like, oh, I've just forced all this on and it doesn't match, but it matches. I think I love to see it when it gets really right. So I also then bought this recently, and this is kind of like a nice check with like floral, and then this, and I just love their stuff.
Yeah.
Like, one was looking for like a slightly like more spendy item, I would just say those because I think they're cut so nicely, they fit really nicely, and they like wear really well. So like I have worn this to like the pub with like a leather jacket and a pair of like heel boots and stuff, and like it's been grand. And I chose these because these dresses just feel like me, if that makes sense. They feel like if I could design something, it would look like these dresses. So
that's so right what you mean about like the pattern and like getting it right, like because you can't just throw any pattern together, like it doesn't work.
No.
But it's so true what you're saying.
Yeah, I think, again, as well, I think if we're going to start being like a bit more thoughtful with our fashion, I think it is just getting those things that are right. Like, I will still try to like mix it and stuff myself, but I love to see it getting so right. And I think it's probably one of my favorite trends that's out there right now, is just that kind of mismatch of patterns. I just think it's so cool, and it's edgy without having to like be edgy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I brought a dress and I wore it to like a couple of weddings as well, and I've never really done that before. I've always been like, oh, I need something new, but like because I love the dress so much, like every time I put it on, like it never feels like I'm wearing something old, because it fits me really well and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah,
which is really good, because I think people, you wouldn't think of doing that, or I wouldn't have thought of doing that a couple of years ago. I'd be like, no, I can't wear the same dress that someone's seen before to a wedding.
No, I think like, as much as like I'm like a big one for like, don't keep anything for good, wear it. Do you know what I mean? Like just bloody wear it, like stick it on you. But I think as well, it is nice to have these pieces. So like in my wardrobe, I have this wee section which is my like slightly less worn pieces, because I think it's good to have like a small collection of dresses. And I think everybody knows themselves when they put something on, they're like, yes, this is it. This is the only thing. Like, I'm sorted. So I have like this like snake print dress that I bought again 2 years ago, and it just fits perfectly. It's the perfect like going out dress. It's like really low cut. It's like ruched here, and like the sleeves on it are really nice. And I think like, as much as like I try not to keep things for good and get the wear out of my stuff, I do just have this wee section that when I find special pieces, I'm like, yeah, I'm keeping you, because if I have something where I'm like, oh, instead of panic buying, I'm like, no, they fit well, they look good, and they're comfy. We're good.
Yeah, because when you've got an occasion, like, I find that it's just so hard to find something for it. It's always so typical. You're like, oh, there's nothing out there that I want. Yeah,
I think, and that's when you end up spending a bomb on stuff you're not going to wear, or maybe stuff that's not really your style. And like, that's just not what you want. Do you know what I mean? I think it's horrible to feel like that, like after something that you feel like maybe you've spent all this money and you don't feel great. And I think it's really good that when you do find pieces, that, you know, sometimes you can just keep them in mind that, no, I feel really good in those, we're good, we'll just rewear something.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I've learned as I've got older, is to not, if I don't feel good in something when I try it on, I'm never going to feel good in it. I'm never going to be able to change to look better in it, or like, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that is something that kind of does come with age. I think you could tell that to like a teenager as much as you wanted to. I just don't think they'd listen. Do you know what I mean? And like, I think everybody starts to get into like their 20s, and like, I just think you suddenly become about comfort and things that make you feel confident, and things that you're like, no, this is me, I feel good.
Yeah.
I don't want to wear something that doesn't make me feel like that. Like, obviously we all have our bad choices, and we all put something on that maybe once you actually get out of the house and stuff you don't feel great in, but I think it is just starting to learn about what is right for you and your body. And I think that is the biggest confidence boost you can give to anyone.
Yeah. And that brings us on really nicely and very smoothly, which I think is the first time that's happened, to the item that you find tricky.
Do you know what it is?
Jeans.
Oh my god, I hate jeans so much. I have such a hatred for jeans. I adore them on everyone else. See these people that stick on a pair of straight leg jeans with a white tee and like a Birkenstock, and they're like, oh, ready to go, and I look French. No, I hate them so much. I have never found a pair of jeans that fit me right, that like flatter me, that make me feel comfortable, anything. And I just find them so hard to style. So like a lot of people see me every day in work in dresses, and they're like, oh my god, you're always so dressed up. And I'm like, genuinely, see, like, chucking one of these on, cool, dressed, out of the door in 10 minutes. I'm sad when I have to wear jeans, because I'm like, oh my god, what do I wear with them? So these are my thing, that I know how to style them on other people, but I find them really difficult, because if they're not like high waisted enough, because I'm like short in the body, like my leg ends here, so no body, massive boobs. So they like cut me in half, and I just look like boobs and legs. And then so it's trying to find the right jeans that maybe fit right, and then like the right blouse for them. And then I just feel like I spend my whole day like tucking everything back in, and like, or I have to wear a blazer, and then I'm like there's too many things going on.
Yeah.
So yeah. I always think it's funny because people, I think, are like, oh, you're so dressed up. And I'm like, no, these are the devil to me. I really struggle with these. I don't find them comfy. I feel sad after I put them on. I've actually made like a thing that I'm not wearing these until the fall again because, no, they're away. Goodbye.
It's funny, like, what things make you feel dressed up and what don't. Or maybe, like, things that you're aware of wearing. Because I'm like that a bit with loungewear. I have to think so much about, like, if I'm just going to have a casual outfit. That takes me, like, half an hour. Yeah. Whereas shoving on a dress, I'm like, yeah, I know how to do this. This works for me.
I'm so comfy. Yeah, because, like, I would actually see, like, I think one of the last times I went out before lockdown, I was like, right, it's casual. We're going, like, out to the pub for the day. I'm going to dress up, but I'm not. I actually did put on jeans. I took a notion because I wanted to wear, like, a mesh top I have. And like, to me, I felt more dressy than if maybe not this, but if I was in something like this in a pair of boots, I actually felt more dressy in the jeans because so much thought had gone into them, whereas, like, chucking on those, and, like, I mean, the same as loungewear, like, I went out for a walk last Friday and put on, like, I have this, like, camel-coloured loungewear set. And then it's like, I feel really weird in this, like, sitting weird, and then what trainers, and, like, then what jacket. It's the whole thing.
Yeah, and so many people do it, like, really, really well, and I, like, commend them for that. But, yeah, I'm the same. Like, I just can't get it right.
No, it's so funny. It is just so funny what each person interprets it. Like, to me, jeans are just so uncomfortable as well, like, sitting, and then they're digging into it. It's a whole thing. Yeah,
and like if you're in between size, you never know whether to get them like slightly smaller or slightly bigger, and then they stretch, and it's like they're so confusing. And like,
I literally go in and out so much that, like, I'm really small here, but then, like, I've hips, but then I have no bum as well, so I end up with like a nappy. And it's a stressful situation. I just avoid jeans. I have so many jeans in my drawer. And I avoid them because I'm just like, do you know what? No, I don't have time for you today.
Yeah. And trying jeans on, like trying to go and find the right pair of jeans is just like, no. It's a mission. I think I did a YouTube video, like a vlog, and I was moaning about like jeans. And then someone commented underneath like, yeah, first world problems. And I was like, I know it's first world problems, but at the same time, like, the struggle is real.
It's definitely one of the most established first world problems as well. Like, screen shopping is hateful. Because there's a well-known Instagrammer that did that video where she went around all the high street stores and tried on a size 14 or size 16.
Oh, really?
Every single one of them fit differently.
Yeah.
Like, every single one of them. And, like, that's my beef with jeans, where I'm just like, why can you not just be true to size?
Yeah.
And they're not. Like, I have, like, those ones there. I have a 14, and then I have another pair that fit really nicely in a 16, but then, like, my favourite pair of jeans are a size 12, so I'm like...
Yeah, who knows?
Why? Do you know what I mean? Like, why? Why?
Brilliant. So should we go on to your random item then?
Yes. So my random item, and I kind of touched on it earlier, is this handbag. So it is a Vivienne Westwood limited edition handbag that I bought myself for my 21st birthday a couple of years ago. And I love it because I don't think it's very me. I don't think, like, I would necessarily, like, look at it and be like, that's me in a handbag. But I love it because, so Vivienne Westwood is special to me because when I was growing up, I was really into, like, punk and emo. Like, specifically, like, The Clash and, like, really, like, Joy Division and, like, proper, like, 1970s punk.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is where I got my love of fashion. So I loved seeing, like, images of, like, Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren in, like, the, like, proper punk, and, like, how punk was such a movement that suddenly people were like making their own clothes and making like pulling away from kind of like normal society in their fashion. And so I really wanted like a special piece that was Vivienne Westwood, because to me that is why I got into fashion, was that real awakening of, you know, fashion doesn't necessarily have to be what everyone else is wearing. And like literally I think up until I was about 13 I was like diehard like black, I'm gonna rip everything. And it just, to me it's special because it just makes me think of like that's what I got inspired by, if that makes any sense. So I thought that was something had a bit more to it than, oh, this is pretty.
Yeah, that's so funny because quite a lot of girls that I've spoken to on this so far have said that they like went through that emo phase and like really experimenting with clothes and like ripping, like you said before about the fingerless gloves and stuff, and like really not being happy enough with like what you see in the shops, like having to alter it in some way.
And I think especially like, to me, clothes only have really started to get good in the last 5 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, we were all there for like the terrible 2000s where nobody dressed well, like literally nobody dressed well, and if they did, it was expensive. So I think like we were maybe the last ones not to see that like completely like, you know, I don't know, like instantaneous fashion production. Do you know what I mean? Like. Like, we never saw the Kardashians on TV, and then next thing, Pretty Little Thing had it out in order the next day. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think so many of us maybe did that because, like, there wasn't as many options. And, like, even more so because, like, my boyfriend's a wee bit older, and then, like, our friends are, like, again in their 30s, like, early 30s, and they talk a lot even more about that, where it's, like, especially in places like Belfast, like there just wasn't that option. So I think it was really interesting. Like I think you even watch back things like Skins and stuff from like our age group, and like you see like the real eclectic different fashions, and I think it's because there just wasn't as much options. So like I think we all got a bit more like creative a lot of the time, and I love that. I think it's so interesting. I love to hear that so many of us were teenage emos as well. I really appreciate that. Just so many of us.
It's so funny because when we were growing up, there was just like this, it was either like music or there was like one kind of style icon really, and one kind of like person to look up to. Whereas now like teenagers have got so many different influences, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you have so many places to draw inspiration from, and I think as well, as much as like there's obviously a lot of problematic things with like social media and like kind of the influence on young people, I think as well there's so much inclusivity now as well, where like, you know, especially kids that maybe are like LGBT and like people who maybe are like trans and stuff, there's so many things now that kids are now seeing that that's okay, there's people like them, and like I think there is just so many like positive things along with the bad. I think it's quite cool to be a kid now. I think there's so many things that you're like able to own your own identity, that you're not waiting to your 20s to learn that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Has Instagram, like, on a whole been, like, quite a positive influence and experience for you, would you say?
I think so. Like, I think so. Like, to me, I've only ever seen... I've seen, obviously, some... Like, I personally have never really got any negativity. I got a wee bit coming up to the election when I was mouthing off about stuff, but that's a different issue. But I have never got anything about my personal appearance. Whether or not that'll change, I don't know, with like the next couple of years, hopefully if I get a bit more followers. But I have seen through different friends and stuff getting random comments and stuff. But to me, it's always been like quite a positive community where I've met loads of really like-minded people. We're all very supportive of each other, and it's just been like a real thing that I have found very empowering. Like I can't understand how people maybe don't find it, and like I do acknowledge that, and I try to like, you know, make my Instagram a place of betterment and try and kind of put out some of that positivity as well. But on a whole, yeah, I do. Like I've met some of my best friends from here. I've met like all, I think the last 3 of my jobs I got from Instagram, because I think it's such a place where people can get an idea of what you're like, can see what you can offer, as well as like connecting with people. It's been made so much easier now. I think it's really nice. Where like, do you know what I mean? Like if we didn't have Instagram, like how would you do this kind of thing? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're not going to email someone, that's really weird. But
Yeah.
if you kind of built up a bit of a rapport with someone through liking their photos, commenting, etc., I think it's a bit less intimidating, and it just, again, gives that, like, door of inclusivity a wee bit.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like when I was saying in school, like, I had my friends and we all really got on really well, but then I found that I was still, like, different to them in the way that I dress and stuff, and, like, the emo stuff. Like, I was kind of the only one. So finding people that, like, love the same dress as me and, like, can talk about clothes and stuff like that with, I find is so nice. It's, like, such a joy.
I think as well, you immediately see someone you connect with. I think, like, I remember, so the person that I first really got into was Megan Ellaby. Because such a big thing about my love for fashion had come from music. So when I started, I was doing, like, gig reviews and music journalism. So I was going to, like, all different gigs, like, going to, like, meeting bands and stuff. And, like, that's very much, like, a big part of the scene in Belfast as well. It's, like, there's a lot of, like, musicians and stuff. And then I remember finding Megan Ellaby, who had been very inspired by that same kind of 60s, 70s, like, style and fashion that came from that era of music. And I remember just being like, oh my god, everything you do is amazing. She was just being like, I agree with all of this. And I think it is fun through how Instagram, you do just see someone that you're like, yeah, we're on the same wavelength. It's really cool.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask you, actually. I was going to say, like, what makes you follow someone when you see their account? What, like, makes you click that follow button?
I think now, I think I like, you know, I can kind of tell immediately with, like, people's photos and stuff if they're going to be really my thing. But then if I maybe see something that's maybe a bit different to what I normally follow, I do click in through it. But I mostly kind of just look for, like, people that don't take it too seriously. I think that's a big thing for me. I'm not really here for, like, I don't know, like, a super, like, intense, look at me, look at what I'm doing here. It's more just like, this is what I like, this is fun, what do you like, tell me about it. And I think it's seeing those people that have that same kind of like-mindedness, where they're open-minded, they're going to, you know, share something a wee bit different, and, like, you know, you can kind of learn something from them. I like as well, like, I've maybe started following a lot of accounts in the last year that maybe have nothing to do with fashion or anything, but are kind of like mental health or, like, you know, inclusivity blogs and stuff, and I really enjoy those, where I find them really interesting, that, you know, you're gaining something from following them. It's not just about the nice photos, it's not just about the kind of content they're putting out, it's kind of learning a wee bit more about things that are outside of your own realm. So I think I do follow, like, a big variation of people, because as much as I love fashion, it's not all that I am interested in. Do you know what I mean? And I think I'm saying things like that, like, I love, like, for instance, like, if I clicked on yours, I'm like, oh, that's really cool, she does, like, photography and filmmaking as well. And I think it's really interesting to see other people's, like, hobbies outside of, like, you know, the nice clothes that we're wearing. I always find that really interesting.
Yeah. So who are your style icons then, to finish off? Or icon?
I'm trying to think. Oh my god, there is someone. Do you know what I really love? And I think this is quite surprising again, because I just said I hated jeans. But I love, like, the girls that literally do just wear, like, jeans, t-shirt. I think it probably comes from the fact that I can't do that. But style icons, oh my god, I'm so bad at things like this. I can never think.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because you're kind of like, there's a lot of profiles that I follow that are quite minimal, and they just do it really well, but I would never do that, and I probably wouldn't dress like them either. But it's just nice to see someone doing, like, not something that you can't, but you know what I mean, like something that is outside of your style, sort of thing.
So I think my prime example, and I just remembered it, was Christine and the Queens. So, I can't remember what her actual name is, something, but Christine from Christine and the Queens. So kind of what I was saying there, I love people who can pull off that kind of real masculine style. I love it, like, because I can't, I'm never going to pull off, like, an androgynous, it's like, no, I am woman, here with my massive boobs. But I love seeing it on other people. Like, she wears, like, these amazing, like, tailored suits, and, like, I have so many suits, because I think they're one of my favourite pieces to have in my wardrobe. but she just wears like these awesome suits, like they're super tailored within like big flouncy blouses. But then on the flip side, we'll wear like a really mensy trouser with just like a white vest or t-shirt, and I just think it's maximalism and minimalism kind of combined, and it's awesome. So she would be at the minute is one of my massive influences.
Yeah.
It's her.
I totally love a good suit. It's just like, it's such a nice piece to have, and you can just wear it again and again.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. But I found that now that my hair's shorter, I have to be careful like what I wear with the suit. Have you found that at all? Because you went for the chop, didn't you? Like.
Yeah, I know mine is no longer a bob. It's kind of though. I kind of feel like I didn't really fully suit the full bob, so I don't hate it, but. Yeah, I think once my hair went, because mine was really long, mine was down to my there.
Yeah.
I felt very self-conscious all of a sudden, because suddenly all this hair, especially because like I don't really like up here, it's like kind of where I find that like I carry a lot of my weight and stuff, and I find like suddenly my like comfort blanket was gone. Do you know what I mean? So like I was suddenly wearing a bit less, like, I don't know, things showed that area. So yeah, I would agree, but not necessarily for my suits. Is an interesting one. Why do you find that like you feel a bit more?
Yeah, I think it's just because I find that it's more like, say if I put I don't know what it is. It's just like putting a shirt underneath or whatever. Maybe it's like it feels too masculine for my kind of style, or because if you've got long hair, it is like, it's a very like feminine thing, and it is like, I felt the same. It is like a comfort blanket. And it's something that I was very wary of, because I think there's so many women, I was talking to someone about this yesterday actually, like there's so many of us that for whatever reason like don't like our arms and like our chests and stuff. So yeah, like if you've got your hair shorter, then all of this is on show.
Yeah, it's suddenly all there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
There is one, but at the same time, like shorter hair is just so low maintenance. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
Long hair. I don't have time for long hair.
Definitely. Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on Life in Clothes. I've absolutely loved chatting to you and seeing your amazing wardrobe. Thank you so much
for having me. It was an absolute delight to like actually get to meet you, because that's what I was saying to Siobhan from Just a Uniform, was like, it's so weird, you see these people so often and you don't actually ever get to like real time interact with them, so it's really nice to then like things like this that you actually get to chat to people.
Yeah, because you feel like you know people, don't you? Like you're just exactly how I knew you were gonna be, because I feel like I know you already. It's really crazy.
And then you actually meet people and you're like, oh!
Yeah.
It's fine. But no, thank you so much for having me. This has been a delight.